Easy is his name and the boys coming
straight out of Compton. It's a brother that'll smother your mother and make your sister think I love her. Dangerous motherfucker raising hell. And if I ever get caught, I make bail. See, I don't give a fuck. That's the problem. I see a motherfucking cop, I don't dodge him. But I'm smart, lay low, creep a while. And when I see the punk pass, I smile.
On February 24th, 1995, Eric Wright, better known as Eazy-E, checked into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. The rap legend complained of what seemed like asthma-related issues and a persistent cough, but once admitted, his condition quickly worsened. Within days, doctors diagnosed Wright with AIDS, a revelation that shocked those closest to him. But it couldn't be ignored given the advanced state of the disease. Just a few weeks later, Eazy-E publicly addressed his illness, releasing a statement acknowledging the diagnosis and urging others to take the disease seriously. The man who once embodied gangsta rap's fearless bravado now found himself issuing a stark warning about the grim realities of such a diagnosis at this point in time. For rap fans, it was a surreal and disorienting experience. Before the news, Eazy-E had lived one of the most extraordinary lives in hip-hop history. As a founding member of NWA, he helped ignite the cultural revolution with Straight Outta Compton, an album that put the world on notice about the arrival of gangsta rap in the mainstream, an art form grounded in the realities of life in South Central Los Angeles. But instead of the socially conscious rap of the early 80s that painted a bleak and depressing picture of the struggles in the inner city, NWA pitched its music with a defiance and aggression that mesmerized audiences and made the music feel urgent and important. Eazy-E's high-pitched, almost taunting delivery became a signature of the group's sound, and through their label, Ruthless Records, he established himself as a savvy businessman, one who seemed to embrace both the glamour and the grime of the industry. But behind the music, tensions ran high. Fellow NWA member Ice Cube was the first to walk away, accusing Eazy and band manager Jerry Heller of mishandling finances, a dispute that erupted into a bitter feud, with Cube unleashing the infamous diss track No Vaseline. Then came the fallout with Dr. Dre, which turned even uglier. As Dre teamed up with Suge Knight to launch Death Row Records, the battle with Eazy-E escalated into violent threats and more musical attacks, culminating in Fuck With Dre Day, which ridiculed Eazy-E as a has-been. E fired back with Real Motherfucking G's, a scathing rebuttal that painted Dre as an industry puppet. But much like Kendrick Lamar's decisive blow to Drake, the rap world had chosen its victor, and Eazy-E was essentially discarded to the dustbin of rap history before his 30th birthday. Through it all, Eazy remained loyal to Jerry Heller, the man who had helped him turn Ruthless Records into a powerhouse. Critics, including his former bandmates, accused Heller of exploiting Eazy, widening the rift between them. Even as gangsta rap flourished, with Death Row leading the charge, Eazy continued to carve out his own lane, signing new artists and pushing back against those who wrote him off. His outspokenness extended beyond music. When Los Angeles erupted in riots following the Rodney King verdict in 1992, many rappers, including his former NWA peers, spoke out against police brutality. But Eazy took a more surprising stance, defending one of the officers involved, Theodore Briseno, as someone he believed had tried to stop the assault. It was a controversial position that added another layer to his complex legacy, one that saw him both championing the struggles of the streets and maintaining an independent perspective, even when it put him at odds with his peers. And by the time he entered the hospital in early 1995, Eazy-E was still deeply immersed in the music industry, working on projects and managing artists. But it was too late. The disease had already ravaged his immune system, and his rapid decline stunned the rap world. Just a month after revealing his condition, Wright passed away on March 26, 1995, leaving behind a legacy as one of hip-hop's most influential and controversial figures. Eazy-E was just 30 years old. I'm Derek Kaufman.
I'm Jason Beckerman.
And this is Last Days, Eazy-E.
When news broke of Eazy-E's passing due to complications from AIDS, the hip-hop community was left in shock. Friends and former rivals all reacted with a mix of grief, disbelief, and in some cases, regret. Fans, meanwhile, mourned publicly, gathering outside Ruthless Records and paying tribute to the man who brought gangster rap into the mainstream. Among the first to speak out was Ice Cube, his former NWA bandmate and longtime rival, who admitted to being stunned. Quote, "I didn't get a chance to say anything to him." Cube later reflected, "It's real sad." Dr. Dre, with whom Eazy had one of the most publicized feuds in rap history, also expressed remorse. "I just wish we could have reconciled before it was too late," he said in an interview. Snoop Dogg, one of the rising stars of death row at the time, acknowledged Eazy's impact, saying, quote, "He paved the way for all of us in West Coast rap." Compton Mayor Omar Bradley declared April 7 Eazy-E Day, saying, "Eric made Compton famous, not just in California, but all over the world. I recognize Eazy as a young man who grew up in the streets of Compton, and brothers and sisters. We know it's not easy growing up in Compton." Even beyond the music world, figures like Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was by Eazy's bedside in his final days, used the moment to bring attention to the stigma of AIDS, emphasizing the importance of awareness and education. It also led to his commemoration in the AIDS quilt, ensuring his name was remembered beyond music. One of the most touching tributes came from Bone Thugs and Harmony, who dedicated their Grammy-winning song, The Crossroads, to his memory.
Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you, when judgment comes for you, tell me what you gonna do, when it ain't nowhere to hide. When judgment comes for you, 'cause it's gonna come for you.
The song would go on to become a #1 hit and remains a classic of the genre. Even decades later, his contributions continue to be recognized. In 2024, Eazy-E was posthumously honored with a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award as a member of NWA, a testament to his undeniable mark on the culture.
Jason, we should pause here for a minute and talk about the legacy he left behind with the AIDS diagnosis. This is a post-Magic Johnson world already. Magic had already put a spotlight on the disease at this point in time, but it was a very different feeling with Eazy-E. Both had sort of introduced the idea that this wasn't a gay plague necessarily. This was a disease that could impact anybody on earth, and all of a sudden it was, if you had lots of sex in the 80s, you were paying the consequences for it. It was so advanced by the time Eazy-E came out with his AIDS diagnosis that the way it hit was, wow, we're going to watch this person slowly fade away. Magic Johnson was still in great health. He's obviously still alive today, stands for something different. What did you make of that at the time? Because you were in LA.
Yeah, at the time, it's really important to remember, we now know Magic Johnson has lived with AIDS for 33 years, since he revealed to the world. Who knows how long he had it. But at the time of Magic's diagnosis and announcement, and of Eazy's diagnosis,
Magic was HIV, which is different.
That's right. But we assumed it was all the same and it was all a death sentence. We now know that it's not, and technology and medicine have come along. At the time when Eazy did it, the question was, it was still viewed, despite the fact that Magic had maybe gone a long way in getting away from this idea that it was the gay plague, it was still viewed in that light. And there were a lot of rumors about Magic, even frankly before the diagnosis, but certainly afterwards. And it was sort of assumed that he must have from time to time been with men. And Eazy, I think the same suspicions were raised. And in today's world, it might not be such a big deal, although in certain circles it certainly still is. But at the time, it was looked at with such derision to have contracted AIDS, because being gay was looked at with such derision, especially, let's not mince words,
particularly in gangster rap community.
Gangster rap community, right?
Where all over the lyrics, the F word is thrown around.
So much homophobia.
It's rampant.
Right, rampant. And, and so I think it was looked at through that lens. And it's hard for me to disassociate the two, because I think what everybody thought at the time was, oh, Eazy had this life that nobody else knew that he had. But at the very least, he had sex, unprotected sex, with, I think this came out, hundreds, if not thousands of women. He was living the life of a multimillionaire, insanely famous person.
Extremely young, yeah.
Extremely young. We all do stupid things when we're young. And at the time, it was just, for him, it obviously was a death sentence. It's an odd time to remember back to, because it was at this juncture where we were beginning to accept AIDS as a disease that affected people of all lifestyles equally.
But it would also raise whispers about people who were diagnosed. Exactly. Even people who had blood transfusions, I remember, there would be whispers about people like Arthur Ashe and things of that nature. And it was bizarre, because truly there were other ways to acquire the disease, but everyone still would try to graft that on.
That was something that, like, liberals would say, well, there's plenty of ways, we can all get it, everybody's at risk. But like the run-of-the-mill, your average American didn't view it that way. It was still a gay disease, and if you got it, it was really unlucky if you got it otherwise. If you got it as a gay disease, then you sort of deserved it. It was kind of a run. That's more the 80s thought process, but
it was an ugly period.
It was an ugly period, yeah.
And on top of these suspicions about whether Eazy-E was gay and had acquired AIDS in that manner. There were also just bizarre conspiracy theories that sprouted up in the aftermath of his death because it was so rapid. His deterioration was so quick. People who didn't want to believe that there was sort of a gay element to it, they started to fill in the void with other very, very strange
There was some
theories.
homophobia built into that too, right?
Yes.
This lack of desire to admit that their hero could have possibly been engaged in that down low lifestyle.
That's right. And things got strange. Lazy Bone, who was a rapper from the group Bone Thugs and Harmony, which had been signed to Eazy's Ruthless Records, questioned the circumstances of Eazy's AIDS diagnosis and quick deterioration of his health, noting, quote, even his kids that were born after he died weren't positive. Even their mothers weren't positive. Nobody was positive. I believe it's just like the mystery of who killed Tupac and who killed Biggie. So this was another thread, another vein of the
Can't
suspicion
possibly be
was
AIDS.
it's not AIDS. Something else is going on.
Right.
So there were these conspiracy theories that would bubble up. Some of it, from what you said, didn't want to believe that one of their heroes could have been down low lifestyle or anything like that. So, Lazy Bone and Bone Thugs, they revered Eazy. The Crossroads is a tribute to him.
Yeah.
So there were these other suspicions that would creep up. What really killed Eazy-E? A rapper named Frost, who had been signed to Eazy's Ruthless Records back in 1995, spoke openly about his belief that his rap mentor had been deliberately killed, saying, quote, I believe to this day, and I don't care if you guys got it on film, you can tell the world. They gave him tainted needles with acupuncture, needles that tainted him. They gave it to him. He would not specifically elaborate on who he believed was responsible, but added that it was another person in the rap community. He said, how else could somebody die that fast of AIDS? Have you ever heard of somebody dying in 2 weeks of AIDS, bro? Come on, man. It's just unheard of.
Years later, during an infamous 2003 interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Suge Knight, the imposing founder of rival record label Death Row Records, only added fuel to the speculation when he joked about the idea of injecting someone with AIDS rather than shooting them.
So they got this new thing out that people sell them all the time. They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
well, that
death
seems
don't happen.
bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay.
Some conspiracy theories suggested that Eazy was deliberately infected, possibly as part of a plot linked to his business disputes with Suge Knight. Jerry Heller later recalled that Eazy told him he wanted to kill Suge Knight, prompting Heller to talk him down and focus on their then-thriving record label. After E's death, Heller said, quote, you know something? I should have let him kill him. I would have done the world a favor. He would have done it, for sure, by himself. He always rolled by himself, and he was fearless. I think that he was going to do it. I shouldn't have talked him out of it. Ruthless would probably still be around. Dr. Dre and Ice Cube would probably still be with Ruthless. It would have been an empire.
I have to say, Suge Knight is such a scary figure, and you have to really put yourself back in time. If you watch that clip, he's scary, but he's clearly joking. He's clearly joking on this talk show, but because of the space he occupied in pop culture, people were like, oh man, he killed Eazy-E, and they would build these conspiracy theories. He almost certainly didn't kill Eazy-E. And as you watch it, but you hear these quotes, it's just more of a sign of the times than something that you should really graft much seriousness onto. He was just a scary guy.
It's absurd.
Yes.
It's just absurd.
There was a rivalry. Death Row and Ruthless were deep in rivalry.
That's more what I'm interested in here. The conspiracy theory about Suge injecting him or him being injected or whatever.
It was Suge playing on those stupid rumors.
I think it's amazing that Suge is still relevant in today's discourse in the case of Puffy, just as this like menace who was threatening to kill everybody.
On talk shows.
On talk shows, right.
Eazy wasn't just a rapper. He was a movement. Born and raised in Compton, California, he came up in an environment where survival typically meant taking on an unsavory role: drug dealer, pimp, hustler, or thug. And Eazy wore his role selling drugs like armor, earning a feared reputation in the streets. But when his cousin was killed, he saw another way out: music. With money earned from drug dealing, he started Ruthless Records, and in 1987 teamed up with Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and others to form NWA. At a time when mainstream hip-hop still revolved around party anthems and East Coast lyricism, Eazy and NWA introduced something raw, unfiltered, and undeniably real. Their debut album, Straight Outta Compton, was more than just a collection of songs. It was a statement, a sonic rebellion that painted a vivid picture of life in South Central Los Angeles. Tracks like Fuck the Police drew national outrage, even catching the attention of the FBI.
Dumb motherfucker with the gun. And if I'm rolling up the 8, he'll be the one that I take out and then get away. While I'm driving off laughing, this is what I'll say. Fuck the police. Fuck the police.
song was sort of this thesis statement, a battle cry from the inner city that transformed the group into instant living legends.
Eazy's signature delivery, his high-pitched, almost playful yet menacing cadence, was unlike anything in rap at the time. He didn't have the technical prowess of Ice Cube or the production genius of Dr. Dre, but his charisma, his ability to embody the street persona he rapped out, made him an icon. His solo debut, Eazy Does It, solidified his place as a pioneer of gangster rap, a genre that would go on to define West Coast hip-hop. But as NWA splintered due to financial disputes and power struggles, Eazy found himself at odds with his former bandmates. The feuds with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre became legendary, leading to some of the most vicious diss tracks in hip-hop history, including Ice Cube's No Vaseline.
Goddamn, I'm glad y'all set it off. Used to be hard, now you just went soft. First you was down with the AK. And now I see you on a video with Michelet, looking like straight bozos. I saw it coming, that's why I went solo.
The modern rap diss track arguably started with Ice Cube's devastating takedown of his former bandmates, ripping them as lame posers and sellouts, and priming his fans for what would become a huge solo career. Even as his rivals flourished, though, Eazy continued to work, launching the careers of acts like Bone Thugs and Harmony and cementing Ruthless Records as a force in the industry. He also continued to profit from the success of his former bandmates, even going so far as to gloat about collecting money from Dr. Dre's solo efforts during an appearance on the Arsenio Hall show.
Now, how did that work out?
Basically, I had Dre signed as exclusive producer and exclusive artist. So when Dre tried to make his deal over at Interscope, you know, I was included for the next 6 years. So you can say all you want to say. Basically, you could diss me all you want, but I'm going to get paid. Because that's why I say Dre Day's only Eazy's payday.
Beyond the music, Eazy was a businessman, a street-savvy entrepreneur who understood the power of independence. At a time when black artists were often exploited by record labels, he retained control over his music and his money. His influence is seen in today's hip-hop moguls, from Master P to Nipsey Hussle, who followed his blueprint of ownership and self-made success. Despite his tough exterior, Eazy was full of contradictions. He was a ruthless executive, but a generous mentor to groups like Bone Thugs. He condemned police brutality, but also famously defended one of the officers involved in the Rodney King beating. His ability to straddle both worlds, corporate and criminal, artist and executive, made him one of the most compelling figures in hip-hop history. And I think that what we know about Eazy, he was brilliant.
Yes.
He grew up in the streets, not very well educated.
Not polished, he
not
wasn't.
Polished, all that stuff. But, and it's true certainly with Ice Cube, it's true with Dre as well. They were just smarter than everybody else around them, intuitively, inherently smarter. And he was able to leverage that intelligence to rise to the top of an industry that, look, everybody was trying to get into rap at the time. Everybody that Eazy was associated with. There's a reason he became the mogul that he became.
You know, I got to be honest. When I was growing up, Eazy-E's alliance with Jerry Heller was seen as he's the sellout of the group, and you would align yourself with Ice Cube, whose lyrics, he was a better rapper. There's no doubt about it. A better lyricist, Dr. Dre.
Better lyricist, yeah.
Perfect at production. He pulls the right samples. Eazy was unique, but never considered the best rapper, had his own charm. But what he was, and that narrative that he sold them out to align himself with the white guy, Jerry Heller, who was taking advantage of the band, I think was wrong. I think what Jerry Heller saw in him was a true equal, a partner. And when you listen to Jerry Heller interviews, he passed away a few years ago, he would always speak very lovingly of Eazy-E, not as someone who was a co-equal, who built Ruthless Records with him. And even though that rankled his former bandmates who maybe thought Eazy didn't look out for their interests, you can't deny that he was just an incredibly bright guy with a business acumen.
So I guess the thought is that he was using Jerry Heller, and using is the wrong word. They were getting rich together.
Yes.
And Eazy knew better than anybody how it was that he was going to go about dominating the industry, and he needed Jerry Heller to make that happen. Jerry Heller he was dealing with sort of the racist music community. Right. He knew that he needed this guy to be his mouthpiece in certain circles.
Yes.
And so he aligned himself with Jerry Heller, not as a sellout, but as somebody who could get for Eazy what he couldn't get on his own because he couldn't play that system, play that game.
That's exactly right. They helped each other, in other words. They both got rich off it, but it wasn't as if Jerry Heller was some master.
But if you're Dre or you're Ice Cube and watching Eazy get sort of richer and more famous than they are, I see their point too, where they're like, shit, you're sort of abandoning us for this guy, and that seems to us as you're being a sellout. I see that point as well.
Yeah, it killed the band. And Eazy's impact on the rap world really wasn't fully appreciated during his short life, but the 30 years since his death has cemented his legacy as the godfather of gangster rap. Critics and hip-hop historians recognize him as a rap pioneer, a controversial yet legendary figure who helped shift the genre's entire landscape. Although his skills on the mic never reached the levels of his many contemporaries, no serious hip-hop fan puts him in the same category as Tupac, Biggie, or even the members of his old group like Dre and Cube. His influence on how we think about rap, from the grounding in street culture to the glamorized violence to the scantily clad video vixens to the cutthroat business dealings to the beefs and the diss tracks to the fast living in strip clubs and splashing around newly obtained wealth on cars and jewelry, have become integral parts of the fabric of hip-hop. And they're all part of Eazy-E's legacy. And as time passed and wounds healed among the former members of NWA, the members of the group occasionally had time to reflect on Eazy-E, recognizing his lasting contributions and letting the old rivalries fade into the background. And so I wanted to end with one of these tributes from one of Eazy-E's former friends and fiercest rivals, Ice Cube himself, heard here during the 2016 induction of NWA in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And to the man, the late great, often imitated, but never duplicated, Eazy motherfucking E. This is his vision. He wanted us to be honest. He wanted us to be truthful, say what we feel. He didn't care if we got any record play. He didn't even care if we got signed to a major label. All he cared about was for our story to be recognized and heard. So we love Eazy. We miss him. You know, I think about him all the time because, you know, he was such a smart businessman and he knew the pulse of the people.